We've got the card back in the printer. We have put the spool holder on the printer. It just slides down into place. I'm going to be using a roll of black PLA from Matter Hackers. Again, I recommend, if you're just starting out, that you go with PLA as your first filament. It's much easier to deal with. You'll have far fewer problems. So in order to feed this through, it can help if you cut the tip at an angle. But basically you put it in the hole at the top right end of the extruder here. You want to feed it through the gear that's at the top and pull down on this spring. And then we're just going to feed this into the tube. We're going to feed it, we're going to feed it. And you'll see that it's coming in down through here. And we're just going to keep pushing it all the way until it stops. So now we're good to go as far as the material goes. Okay, so first thing we're going to do, we're going to go to move. I'm just going to start with the x-axis and make sure that it moves. There we go. Okay, so that can go all the way. And then we're going to go to the y-axis and click in once to select it. And we're going to make sure it moves, and I'm going to push it all the way back till it hits its home. And then I'm going to come to home axis. And now we're going to make sure that everything looks okay. This is where we're going to need to level the build plate. So chances are this is not going to be correct, but we'll see. We'll see how far off it is. Oh yeah. So leveling the build plate is actually a very straightforward and pretty simple process. Really all you need to do to level the build plate is take a piece of copy paper and your Allen wrench. And so essentially what we want to be able to do is we want to be able to slide this piece of paper in between the print head and the build plate easily. So you'll have to get a kind of a feel for what that's like. Essentially, if you're pulling the paper across the two and you can feel some drag on it, then your spacing is too close and you want to just let it out, basically move the build table down just a little bit with your tool. So let's start by moving up the z-axis. Just a little bit. So we get it far enough off that we can get access to our screw hole. And then we're just going to move the x-axis over some. Let's see which way we need to go. There we go. And if the first time you do this, the first time you hit home axes, if nothing happens, if the whole thing just kind of locks up, just turn the printer off, turn it on again, and manually move the X and Y axis a little bit, and then try it again, and it should work. All right. So I'm actually not going to pull the tape up. I'm just going to kind of poke the tool through the tape to get down to it. There we go on that one. Let's move this over a little bit more. Same thing on this one. Just going to poke it through just to get it down in there. And I'm going to go ahead and give this screw, actually all 4 screws, one full turn clockwise to bring the entire print bed lower. The back screw, bring it down one full turn, and this back screw, bring it down one full turn. Okay, So now that we've got that, I'm just going to go and rehome. And let's see how far off it is now. Okay, that's looking pretty close. Okay, so now when I'm sliding the paper under it, I'm not feeling it. And that could mean that it's right, or it could mean that it's too far away. So what we're going to do is we're going to come up to the x-axis. Let's see. I'm just going to slide this across the x. And as I'm doing it, just moving the paper back and forth, seeing if it catches. And I can already feel it as it's moving across. I can feel it starting to catch. So what that's telling me is that the front right is too high and the front left is just a little bit too low. So we are going to move the front right down just a little bit. And we're going to move the front left up just a little bit. Like that. Okay. Oh, maybe too much actually. It's feeling pretty good. Now I'm going to move it. Continue moving it over. I'm feeling it start to drag a little bit more. So I'll take this and just give it a little bit. Nope, still dragging. Let's push it down a little bit more. There we go. Not dragging. So I'll back it out just a tiny bit. Dragging. So I did have it correct. Now, all right, so that's good on that corner. Now let's move it back over. Now as I'm approaching the front left side, I'm not feeling any dragging at all, so I can probably let this out just a little bit. There we go. That's feeling pretty good. Yeah, a little more. Still good. A little more. Well, now I'm feeling that drag. I'm just turning it back in at this point, maybe like 1/8 of a turn or so. That feels nice. All right, so we've got the front two pretty well in line. So now let's come over to our y-axis and head towards the back of the printer. See how that's doing. So it's feeling pretty good as we're going to the back. Looks like the back may be a little better. Or more loosely aligned. You can hear that when I go over the back end stop. It's okay, it's not going to damage anything if we're over like that. So I'm going to actually bring it back the other way just so I have access to the screw hole. There we go. And this is feeling a little bit loose, so I'm going to let this out. And let's move the x-axis back over. There we go. And this is still feeling pretty good. So I'm just going to continue to let this out. There we go. Now I can feel it grabbing. So that I'm just going to tighten it in so there's no more grab. There we go. And then we're going to move the x-axis over to the other side here. Again, I'm just kind of moving this as we go. Okay. And that feels good currently on that side. So let's let the back right corner out. And you'll want to check this by removing the Allen screw, because the downward pressure you put on the screw can actually be enough to throw off the alignment of the bed. Go. Still feeling pretty good. I'm just continuing to back this screw out bit by bit. I think I'm starting to feel that drag. Yep, I am. So now I'm just going to turn it forward a little bit until I can no longer feel that drag. There we go. All right, so that's feeling pretty good. Now, you might think since you've done all 4 corners that you're good to go, but you should do one last sanity check. So we're actually going to pull the gantry back forward and double check that we haven't gotten anything else off when we did the back 2. So I'm just going to make sure that the front isn't too close. It's feeling pretty good. Yep. We might be just a little bit tight there, but I think we'll be okay. This is the first print. Yep. All right. So it looks like we've gotten everything aligned. So the bed's aligned for our first print.